Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time, as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. Welcome to another gaming memories video. I'm still going to be on vacation here, so this is going to be still a top 10 like I normally do on Fridays, but I wanted to talk about some of my my own personal feelings here with my top 10 gaming faux pas, or things that I just feel like make me cringe, or like, oh no, don't do that type of stuff. So I just want to get into some of the things that I've experienced over my lifetime of gaming. Starting off with number 10, which is going to be picking the broken character in any old video game. This could have been playing it in a fighting game. It could have been picking like Odd Job in GoldenEye 007. This was very more prevalent back in the day when they didn't have any kind of balance patches or anything, and there was a clear, like, undecided best character in the game because they forgot to balance them. Think Meta Knight in Smash Brothers Brawl. You obviously, like, you pick that character and everyone goes, oh my goodness, this guy's absolutely sweating out here. So that was a big no-no. When we played GoldenEye, especially, no Odd Job. That was a big thing. So that's one of my biggest pet peeves here. Number 9 is going to be screen looking. This goes hand in hand, picking a broken character. If you're checking out somebody else's screen, again, this is an older issue. This is way back in the day. But if you're checking out where someone else is on their screen, you know exactly where they are. You know how to find them. And this was absolutely awful. Whenever I'd go to my buddy's house, we played Halo or something like that, or I played GoldenEye way back in the day. You're playing any kind of game where screen looking gives you some kind of advantage. Such a big deal. And you could always tell when someone was screen looking because all of a sudden they just veer right toward you. And you had to start screen looking back just to catch them doing it. You're like, how could you have known? Like, how could you have known that I was looking? It's hilarious. I think screen looking should come back because I miss split screen, like, co-op stuff, and especially split screen multiplayer. I would love to see it actually return because it is kind of funny at the same time. Number 8 is going to be never returning a video game that you loaned to your friend. Now this is a big one. I have definitely done this before. I've definitely had this happen to me before. Usually when I didn't return a game, it's just because I forgot about it and I found it later on. That's a big no-no. You should always be returning your games. Play them and get them back as soon as possible. And then, of course, if you kept someone else's game and never returned it, well, same thing. Like I said, I've done this before where I usually just misplaced it or forgot about it because I was playing some other stuff at the same time, and then I just never gave a game back. I actually had one time where I tried to return it, and the guy was like, nah, it's fine, I don't care about that game anymore. I'm like, cool. So that was kind of fun. But I've definitely had that happen where I had to, like, go and ask my buddy, like, hey, I'd like my game back now. That would be nice. So that's definitely a big faux pas for me. Next is going to be, number 7 is going to be rage quitting. Now this is more prevalent. I think online, typically you get a lot of rage quitters, especially in competitive fighting games. But I think when you're playing with somebody else, it's even worse. When you're playing and all of a sudden they unplug their controller and just peace out, or they're like, tag somebody else in, they jump off the stage, you're playing Smash or something like that, they just stop moving in Street Fighter. This can be really just uncomfortable and awkward. I totally understand. I've definitely been there. But man, having someone rage quit right in front of you is pretty horrifying to try and get through. Because especially if you're hanging out with them, you're like, where do we go from here? Number 6 is going to be wrapping up the cable on the controller. This is something I used to do way back in the day until I learned that it, like, deteriorates the cable much faster. You get weak points in it, of course, if you wrap it too tight. So now when anybody ever tries to wrap my controller, I'm like, no, please don't do that. I will take care of that. I wrap it very gingerly, like do like a specific thing so I can relieve tension on the cord. Whenever I see it happen, even for somebody else, I'm like, oh, don't do that, please. Again, this isn't a super prevalent issue unless you're like still in the Smash scene, you're using an old GameCube controller. People are using wireless controllers all the time now. But back in the day especially, this always got me. I'm like, oh, please don't break my cord just because you want to wrap it up. Number 5 is going to be spoilers for a new video game. I've had a friend or two that just can't help themselves and they get excited and they just start talking about stuff rapidly and they just tell you, and before they give you a chance to, like, say you don't want to hear about it, they're already telling you something that you don't want to know. I've even had a friend like tell me something like, whoa, I don't want to hear anything, like, oh, but this next thing, and then they say another thing. I'm like, I'm going to end you. I will stop it right now. I cannot have this right now. Always makes me mad. Of course, no one likes spoilers for anything, whether it's video games, movies, books, anything like that. Spoilers are the worst. But I hate it when it's a game I'm about to play and someone gives me something and I'm like, dang it, I would have liked to just experience that myself. So that's going to be here. Number 4 is going to be putting the disc in the wrong case. or cartridge if you're using like Switch games at this point. But discs especially, it just always drove me nuts when I'd open up a case to look for my game and there's like a movie in there. I'm like, what is going on? Why just put the game back in the case? Stop swapping, because eventually it's just going from one case to another. Then you've got 5 different discs in 5 different cases, and it's a nightmare. I hate sorting back through it. It's one of my biggest gaming faux pas for me, for sure. Number 3 is going to be fingerprints on the disc. This is even worse. Even worse for me is when you grab the disc, you put your fingers on the underside where they're reading the disc, and there are fingerprints that will never escape that disc. You'll never get those off. It doesn't matter if you have a microfiber cloth. Those fingerprints are going to be there forever. They're going to be imprinted. I hate it. It drives me absolutely insane. Number 2 is going to be erasing or overwriting someone's file. Now this one is definitely on me. I have done this to my brother 2 times for sure. Hopefully I haven't done it anymore. I remember when I was really little, I really loved the opening scene of Donkey Kong 64. I loved the introduction. So I created a file and I would erase it over and over just so I could watch the opening scene. Accidentally was too fast, erased his file instead. I think he was probably about halfway done with it. I don't know if he had beaten the game before or if this was his first playthrough, but that was pretty heart-wrenching for me. I knew when I was going to have to tell him that I erased his file that it was going to be a sad day. And then again, later on with Tales of Symphonia, a very long RPG, we were both playing the game at the same time on different save files, and I accidentally overwrote his save file with mine, and we were doing fairly different paths and he was a little bit further ahead, so he just ended up taking mine and running with it, and it was not the biggest deal, but I remember telling him, thinking like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever done. Like 20 hours into the game and now you have to play from where I am. That's so awful. This one is pretty awful, and if you ever have had this happen to you or if you've done it to somebody, you know how awful it absolutely is. But number 1 is going to be spiking your controller. Now it could be just spiking your controller, especially if you're next to somebody else. It's a horrible thing to have happen because they throw it on the ground and you get a little jumpy because it might bounce back and hit you. It might yank the controllers out of the console. It might pull the console off itself. But what's even worse is spiking someone else's controller. If you're over at a friend's house and you throw their controller, you're never playing on that console ever again. I have seen this happen before, and I have also seen videos of this happening at a Smash tournament specifically where a person spiked a controller and the commentator goes, "That was my controller, I let him borrow." It's the most horrible thing you've ever seen. Spiking controller is bad enough because, you know, the whiplash and everything, you don't want to get hit by the retaliation. I've seen people spike it multiple times. It's just a little dangerous. It can be kind of funny if you're raging, but man, if you're in the room with somebody that's spiking controller, it's awful. And then if it's yours, it's even worse. So those are my 10 gaming faux pas. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. If you have any other ones that you really detest, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.